Welcome back to my channel. Tonight I am going to start a project with you, but we are not going to finish it until possibly the second or even maybe a third tutorial, because I want you guys to be able to go pick out what you want to make with this project and get your materials together and then have a week to go ahead and do the first part of the tutorial. So the first thing you're going to want is to go ahead and pick out a jelly roll. If you do not want to use a coordinated jelly roll for the project, you do have the option of just cutting 2.5 strips with whatever fabric scraps that you have, but I do recommend that it's the full length of what a jelly roll strip would be, because we're going to be cutting that into sections once we've sewn the strips together. So you will actually be cutting as many blocks out of that as you can. Now, if you're going to piece your own, I have cut 5 blocks out of the ones that I have done, but if you're cutting your own scraps, you can make as many of these as you want. But we are going to be making a wall hanging, and we're just going to use jelly roll strips, and I have several tutorials on how to sew strips together if you've never done that before. So it will also be the first part of tonight's tutorial. I'll teach you how to take the actual jelly roll, and I'm going to show you how to put it in strips and also how to cut it into blocks. And that will be your focus for your project for week 1. Next week, when we come back, I'm going to show you how to organize your blocks to make your panel for the wall hanging. And then if you want something added, then we'll also include that in the tutorial. And then if we need a third tutorial, I'll teach you how to put it together with batting and a backing, and even possibly how to do some quilting on the top so that it's ready for you to hang on your wall. So take some time to watch my video, look at the process tonight and how it's going to go. Take a couple of days this weekend and go ahead and get a jelly roll or some scraps together that you want to use for the project, and go ahead and get those made and get your squares cut out, and then come back next week for part 2. So I'm going to suggest that when you start this project that you just have a jelly roll, which is already cut into 2.5-inch strips. And this will be easier for you to piece together, because what you are going to do when you get this opened up is you are going to line these up the way that you want them to look in some coordinated fashion, and you are going to end up sewing them together side by side to make a bigger strip. And you can sew as many together as you want. I'm going to do a finished 18.5-inch block with the pattern. And so you'll just want to line them up the way that you like them and sew 5 or 6 of these together at one time. I would probably suggest doing 6 together. And then we are going to rearrange these strips and cut them different directions to make a wall hanging, and then we're going to have a center block that's going to have just a focal pattern. And I will show you step by step how to go through the process. So when you sew your strips together, you will just sew them right sides together and then open it up, and then you will lay the next strip on top of the previous that you have, and you will just continue to sew with a 1/4-inch seam and do the entire length of each strip that comes in the jelly roll that you have. This will give us plenty of room to cut out all of the additional squares that we're going to be using to make the wall hanging. So I just suggest that you go ahead and cut the entire set by making it a full length for all of your jelly roll strips. And so once you get all of these sewn together, I'm just going to show you how to cut them into the blocks, and then you can organize those the way that you want them to look for your wall hanging. And you will notice that I did not even cut any of the selvage off yet because I'm going to be cutting blocks anyway, and that will just disappear when I go ahead and cut a straight block out of it. So you'll notice I've sewn 6 together for my initial block pattern. And so you're going to want to do this for the full length of a jelly roll set. So you can see this goes a pretty big distance, and this will get us a few blocks out of it. Okay, once you have your 6 completely sewn, you do want to go ahead and iron your seams so that they are flat so that you don't get much bulk. I am using a 7.5 inch square ruler, and I am just going to take my just a section, doesn't matter what section, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this out into just the perfect square. And I'm just going to set this aside, and now I'm going to pick a different spot in my jelly roll and just do the same thing. And just cut out the squares. And I'm just going to continue to do that and cut out as many 7.5 inch squares as I can get, just varying where I lay it and cut it. Now you will have a few scraps left, but scraps make perfect pieces for other projects, and I do not mind the scraps. I actually enjoy the scraps, so I think that's perfectly fine. But I'm just going to continue just to cut and vary, and I'm going top and bottom, but if you wanted, you could go into the center and get these 4 and not necessarily even worry about the top or the bottom. So you've got choices, but you're just going to continue to cut your squares with a 7.5 inch all the way around, as many as you can cut out. And like I said, whatever scraps you have, we can use those for another project. And you're just going to continue to do this. And this will be the first part of the project. Get all of your squares organized and cut out how you want that to look. And we are going to come back in our next episode, and we are going to work on piecing these together and talk about some options for that and how to go about it. And that will give you guys time to pick out your fabric, choose what you want to sew, and then also get all of your squares cut out so that when we come back for the next tutorial, you guys will be ready to start working towards putting this together. And so that is going to be your focus, is to get these taken care of with the first video. And then we'll come back and we will do the second part of this project next week. All right, I hope you've enjoyed tonight's tutorial on part 1 of getting our wall hanging together. One more thing I just want to add before you go. When you get your materials, go ahead and pick a solid that will contrast whatever your other rolls are, because I am going to also have you put something on a center plain block so that your wall hanging has an applique. Or if you don't want an applique, then you can just do solid blocks. But I will recommend just a solid coordinating fabric that you can also use for part 2 of the next video. So thank you for joining me today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you to all of my new subscribers, and come back next week to see what else we're going to do.